Are the judges ready? Is the timer ready? Negative team? Good morning, my partner Alex and I, Porter Kalsem, for the resolution. The United States federal government should reform its policy for the vetting of refugees entering the United States. Quote, Germany has become more unsafe because of the refugees. Alice Waddell, head of the party Alternative for Germany. Germany rushed refugees into their country and their citizens are suffering because of it. America should take action to preserve our nation for its own citizens instead of catering to refugees. Observation 1, definitions. Refugee, a person who has been forced to leave their country in order to escape war, persecution, or natural disaster. Oxford Languages. Policy, a course or principle of action adopted or proposed by a government, party, business, or individual. Oxford Languages. Vetting, the process of investigating someone thoroughly, especially in order to ensure they are suitable for a job requiring secrecy, loyalty, or trustworthiness. Oxford Languages. Observation 2, harms. Harm A, refugees have a high likelihood of being involved in crime, whether knowingly or unknowingly. Quote, there is a substantial drop in the self-perceived risk of having to leave the country, which comes along with the acceptance as a recognized refugee. Following the economics literature on crime, a lower risk of deportation tends to increase non-compliance with the law and thus potential criminal engagement as identified for recognized refugees. Science Direct. Summary. Because refugees are not familiar with their new surroundings, it's easy for them to be used by criminals, and some refugees may use crime as a way to make money, since they may not have the necessary skills and knowledge to become law-abiding, productive members of society. Harm B. Refugees do not receive adequate follow-up. Quote, by measuring success through self-sufficiency, resettlement agencies are compelled to find their refugee clients as quickly as possible, jobs as quickly as possible. Often to their detriment, many refugees end up in survival jobs in poultry plants, hotels, restaurants, and assembly factories that provide little financial stability, involve backbreaking and dangerous work, typically pay low wages, and are often located far from where the refugees are housed. It's not surprising then that refugees lose or leave these jobs after several years. Scholars.org. Summary. Because refugees largely do not receive proper education on how to adapt to their new surroundings and learn to integrate into their communities and build wealth, they often become poor societal outcasts without opportunities and friends in their new homes. Harm C. Refugees are a financial burden upon U.S. taxpayers. Quote, using most recent admissions figures, data on federal and state public assistance programs, and information from the Office of Refugee Resettlement, our analysis found the cost per refugee to American taxpayers is just under $79,600 in the first 5 years after a refugee is resettled into the U.S. In 2016, the State Department spent nearly $545 million to process and resettle refugees, including $140 million on transportation costs. Of the $1.8 billion in resettlement costs, $867 million was spent on welfare alone. In their first 5 years, approximately 54% of all refugees would hold jobs that pay less than $11 per hour. $71 million will be spent to educate refugees and asylum seekers, the majority of which will be paid by the state and local governments. Over 5 years, an estimated 15.7% of all refugees will need housing assistance, which is roughly $7,600 per household in 2014 dollars. We continue to admit refugees at a rate of roughly 50,000 to 100,000 per year and 20,000 to 50,000 political asylees per year. Most of this cohort arrives here without financial resources and possessing few marketable job skills, and the American taxpayer is being asked to feed, clothe, and shelter them. In addition to funding job training programs, Federation for American Immigrant Reform. Summary, refugees cost taxpayers millions of dollars a year once they are in the country. The expense continues because many need financial assistance because they're incapable of financially supporting themselves. This creates lasting issues within their communities with no simple solutions. Observation 3, the plan. Mandate, rather than trying to bring refugees into the U.S., the first resort will be to simply help them where they are. Only for refugees who are in immediate physical danger will immigration be considered. Agency, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, Enforcement, United States Department of State. Funding, the Department of Health and Human Services. Observation 4 advantages. Advantage A, refugees will not have to move to an unknown country and relearn how to thrive. When a refugee is moved to a new country with an unfamiliar language and culture, it's very difficult for them to find their place in society. By simply helping them where they are, you are not only providing much needed assistance, but also allowing them to keep their home and culture. Advantage B, taxpayers will save a considerable amount of money, and random refugees will not be dropped at random into American towns and cities. Well, for what it costs to resettle one Middle Eastern refugee in the United States for 5 years, about 12 refugees can be helped in the Middle East for 5 years, or 61 refugees can be helped for 1 year. A November 2015 study from the Center of Immigration Studies. Not only will helping refugees in their homes save taxpayers millions, but it'll also help them to keep them near their friends, families, and familiar surroundings. In conclusion, for the cost of resettling one refugee in the United States, we can assist more than 10 in their home region. Out of the goodness of our hearts, we offer financial assistance to hosting countries in the region and support recent agreements of the G20 nations that will seek to host refugees as close to their home countries as possible. This is the safe, responsible, and humanitarian approach. Donald Trump. Therefore, my partner, Ali Fonce, and I urge the judges to vote for the resolution. Thank you. I am now ready for cross-examination.